the
That was
dog
close.
doing?
Is everybody all right? Come back again soon for another challenge. Goodbye.
It's me. Hello, hello, hello. Everybody. Move your feet. Hey, 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 hey. Y'all, we're gonna act like it's 8 o'clock and we're gonna keep on moving. So, story time. I was on the phone with my mom and she asked me how I was doing at the work. I said, fine. And then I just sat there in the break room in the parking lot, in the break room after my shift, not in the parking lot, y'all. In the break room after my shift. And I thought, why did I say I was fine? Nothing was fine. I was tired in a way that sleep wasn't fixing. Can I get an amen? I had $47 in my checking account, and payday was 6 days away. 6 days away. I had already done the mental math on what I could and what I couldn't move around. Okay. I knew which bill could be 3 days late without something getting shut off. Like, I had a whole system. I was good at the system. And somehow that was the most depressing part, that I had gotten so good at surviving that I stopped noticing I was just surviving. Here's what nobody talks about when you're working these jobs: the customer service jobs, the retail jobs, the one where you're smiling all day at people who don't always smile back. Nobody talks about what it does to your sense of self over time. You start to shrink, not all at once, y'all, but gradually. You stop making plans that cost money. You stop responding to invitations because you're already either broke or exhausted. You start to build your whole personality around being low maintenance, because low maintenance is the only version of yourself you can afford to be. Cut that. Clip that. What? I had a coworker who used to say, I can't afford to have dreams right now. And we both laugh. But we both know she wasn't fully joking. I wasn't fully joking either. The scary thing about that season of my life wasn't that things were hard. Hard I can handle. The scary thing was that I was just starting to adjust to it, starting to make peace with a life I hadn't actually chosen. I just ended up with it. And the longer I stayed, the more it started to feel like this was just who I was. Like maybe wanting more was just something other people got to do, not me. What I know now that I didn't know then, and I really wish someone had told me this out loud, is that the problem wasn't my job exactly. The problem was that my job was my only option. And when something is your only option, you can't think straight about it. You can't make a real choice about it. You're just gripping it because letting go feels like you're free falling. The moment things started shifting for me was when I started building something on the side. Not because it was perfect, not because I had it all figured out, but because having something else changed the way I stood in every other area of my life. So I stopped being so afraid. I stopped shrinking. Options did that. Not a miracle. Not a massive life overhaul. Just options. That's why I show up every week and do this. because I remember what it felt like to say, I'm fine, when I meant something completely different. And I don't want that for you. So let's talk. I want you to think about something for a second. If something happened to you tomorrow, not hypothetically, just actually tomorrow, if your landlord tried to illegally evict you, or someone hit your car and their insurance tried to lowball you, or your employer shorted your check and you knew it but couldn't prove it, what would you do? Most of us would have to do one of the two things, okay? We either Google that stuff, and hope for the rest, or we just take the loss. Because we all know calling an actual lawyer, that's not even on the table. That's for people with money. That's for people who have that kind of access. And here's the thing, that's not an accident, that's a system. Nearly 92% of low income Americans don't receive any or enough legal help for their civil legal problems. Not because the problems aren't real, not because they don't deserve help, but because they can't afford it. And before you think that's just a low income issue, 40 to 60% of middle class Americans are priced out too. They're priced out. People who are working, people who are doing everything right, they're still priced out. In three quarters of civil case is in three quarters of civil court cases in this country, at least one party shows up without a lawyer, without anybody in their corner. They're just walking into a system that is complicated by design, up against people who have representation, and they are just alone in it. That is not a gap. That is a crisis. And it has been a crisis for a long time. It just doesn't make the news because the people it affects most are the people who have the least power to make noise about it. Can I get an amen? Clip that. Legal Shield exists because someone decided that was wrong. Not wrong like unfortunate, wrong like this should not be how it works. Legal protection should not be a luxury. Having someone to call when things go sideways should not depend on how much money you should have in your account. Justice, actual access to it, should not be reserved for people who can afford a 300 an hour consultation fee just to find out if they even have a case. That is a problem this company was built to solve. And it has been building toward that for over 50 years. And that's why I'm here telling you this. Here's why this matters to me specifically. The women I work with, the ones in customer service, in retail, and hospitality, those are not the women who have lawyers on speed dial. These are women who figure things out themselves, who absorb losses they shouldn't have to absorb, who don't fight back because not because they don't have the right to, but because they don't have the resources to. And I want more for them. I want more for you. This is bigger than a side gig, okay? This is bigger than making a little bit extra money on the weekends. When I share Legal Shield, I'm participating in something that is trying to close a gap that has existed for generations. I'm saying no. Actually, you deserve to have someone in your corner too. You deserve options. You deserve backup. Everyone deserves options with backup, not just the people who can't afford it. That's the movement. And that's why I'm here every week. So let me tell you what this actually is, because I think a lot of people hear legal plan and picture something complicated and corporate and not for them. So I want to break down what you're actually getting in plain English. The first thing is the 24/7 emergency access attorney line. This is the one that gets me every time I explain it. You can call a real licensed attorney anytime, not just Monday through Friday between 9 and 5 when you're at work and can't talk anyway. Anytime. Middle of the night, Sunday morning, whatever. So if something happens, your landlord shows up and says you have to be out or you get arrested or something goes sideways in a way you did not see coming, you don't have to wait until business hours to figure out what your rights are. You pick up the phone, someone answers, someone who actually knows the law, and that's the backup part of the options with backup. That's what it actually looks like in real life. The second thing is document review. Okay, how many of you have signed something without fully understanding it because you didn't want to look dumb or pay someone to explain it? Can I get an amen? A lease, a contract, something your job put in front of you. We sign things we don't understand all the time because getting a lawyer to look at it feels like overkill or just too expensive. With Legal Shield, you can send documents to an attorney to have them actually reviewed. Plain English explanation of what you're agreeing to, what the risk is, what to watch out for before you sign anything. That alone is worth everything to me. Because most of us has learned the hard way what happens when we skip that step. Okay? The third thing I want to talk about is the app. I love the app because it makes the whole thing feel real and accessible instead of some service you forget to have. You forget that you have. Okay? You can build a will, send a letter on attorney letterhead, which by the way gets a very different response than a regular email. Track your cases, access your benefits. It's all right there. For women who are busy, who are on their phones anyway, who doesn't have time to sit on hold, the app matters. Okay. And the fourth thing, honestly, I saved this for last because it's the one that not slaps, but stops people cold is the price. A single consultation with a private attorney can run you anywhere from $150 to $350 just to talk to someone, just to find out, even if you have a case. Most people hear that number and hang up, bloop, 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 hang up before they ever get help. Legal shows a monthly membership. We're talking less than what most people spend on a streaming service. For that, you get everything I just described: the emergency line, the document review, the app, ongoing access for a fraction of what 1 hour with the private attorney will cost you. That's not a deal. That's a completely different way of thinking about who gets to have legal protection. That's what this is. That's what you're actually getting, not a pamphlet, not a hotline that puts you on hold, actual access, actual attorneys at a price that doesn't require you to be in crisis to justify it. One of the first things people ask me when I share legal shit is, okay, but how long does it actually take to get help? Because most of us has had the experience of signing up for something, needing it, and then finding out there are 17 steps between you and the thing you actually need. So let me tell you how this actually works. When you contact an attorney through Legal Shield, the typical response time is usually, when you don't use the emergency line, is 8 business hours. That's not 8 days. Not someone will get back to you when they can. 8 business hours for most situations. A question about your rights, a document review, a letter you need sent, that's fast enough to actually matter. That's fast enough to change the outcome. And the reason it's that fast is because the system is already built. You're not starting from scratch, trying to find a lawyer, vet them, figure out if you can afford them. Schedule a consultation 2 weeks from now. You remember, the relationship is already there. You just have to use it. That's the mechanism. Access is already open instead of a door you have to knock on and hope somebody answers. Let me tell you about someone on my team named Eric. Eric had moved out of the apartment and his previous landlord came after him, y'all. Tried to sue him for $10,000 over a stain. A stain Eric did not make. Okay. Now, without Legal Shield, here's what the situation probably looks like. Eric either pays something he doesn't owe just to make it go away, or he tries to fight it himself without knowing what he's doing, or he spends money he doesn't have hiring someone to help him. Any of these options cost him financially, emotionally, in time he can't get back. Instead, Eric used the letter writing feature. An attorney drafted a letter on official letterhead, not an angry email, not a text, not Eric trying to sound legally competent in a Google Doc. An actual attorney letter, y'all. All right. So Tommy can't get back. Let's jump back into it. Not Eric trying to sound legally competent in the Google Doc, an actually attorney letter, an actual attorney letter. And that was it, y'all. The letter protected him from a $10,000 loss. $10,000 gone as a threat because he had access to the right tool at the right moment. That's not a slow result. That's not give it 6 months and see. That's immediate practical protection that showed up exactly when it needed to. Here's what I want you to understand about why results happen quickly with this. Okay, it's not magic, it's not a loophole. It's just that most of the time, when people are taken advantage of legally by landlords, by employers, by companies, sorry, it works because the other side is betting you don't have anyone in your corner. Okay. They're betting you don't know your rights. They're betting the cost of fighting back is too high for you. Legal Shield changes that math. It changes the math fast because the moment you can pick up the phone or send a document or get a letter drafted, the dynamic shifts. You can stop being someone they can push around and start being someone with backup. That's why results happen quickly, not because the law moves fast, it doesn't, but because having access changes what's possible before things ever have to get that far. I want to talk to you about the thing that makes this different. Not different like a better version of something you've seen before. Different in a way that actually matters. The phrase I keep coming back to. The one that sits at the center of everything I do and everything Legal Shield is built on is this. Everybody deserves options with backup. Not some people. Not people with the right income or the right zip code or the right connections. Everybody. Welcome in. Everybody. Let me tell you about what I mean by that because I'm not just being motivational here, I'm being specific. Options mean you were never trapped. It means when something goes wrong, and something will go wrong, that's just life. You have more than one way to respond. That's not just absorbing the hit because you don't know what else to do. You're not signing something because you can't afford to have anyone explain it to you first. You're not letting a landlord run over you because fighting back feels like something other people get to do. Options mean you have more. You have somewhere to run. You have a choice. And backup means like you don't have to figure it out alone. It means there's someone in your corner before the crisis, not just after. Most of us are really good at figuring things out by ourselves. We've had to be, okay? But there's a difference between being capable and being supported. Backup is a thing that catches you when you're not capable, when you're capable isn't enough, okay? I'm going to say it again. Everybody deserves options with backup. Here's why I think this is the thing nobody else can copy. Other companies can compete on price, they can compete on features, they can update their app, expand their network, add more attorneys to their roster. All of that is copyable. Someone with enough money and enough time can build something that looks similar. But the belief that this protection belongs to everybody, that legal access is not a luxury, that the woman working the customer service desk for $16 an hour or less deserves the same backup as the woman who can afford a $300 an hour consultation. That is not a feature. That is a conviction. And it is baked into every part of how Legal Shield was built. And that's why it's priced the way it is and why it has existed over 50 years. You cannot manufacture that. You either believe it or you don't. I believe it. And I think if you're watching this, some part of you believes it too. Or at least starting to wonder if you've been living like this, like you don't deserve it when you actually do. Because here's the truth about backup. Most of us were never taught that we could have it. We were taught to handle things, to figure it out, to not be a burden, to manage. And we're good at managing. Okay. I'll give us that. We're good at managing. Hand clap on that. But managing is exhausting when you're doing it completely alone. And you don't have to be. Peace feels different when you have options. Security feels different when you have backup. Life feels different when you stop white knuckling everything by yourself. You just fight, fight, and fight. That's what this is. That's what I'm building. That's what I want every woman watching this right now. That's what I want for every woman watching right now. Everyone deserves options with backup. Now, I want to talk to you directly to specifically right now. Not everyone, not anyone who might be interested, someone Pacific. She's in her 20s. Maybe she's 22, maybe 27, maybe right at the edge of 29, wondering how she got here so fast. She works in customer service, hospitality, retail, someone that requires her to be on all day, smiling, patient, helpful, regulated. She gives a lot of herself at that job. And most days it doesn't feel like enough. And most days the check don't feel like enough either. Can I get an amen? She is not lazy. I need to say that clearly because she has probably been made to feel like wanting more means that like she's ungrateful, and that is not true. She shows up, she's reliable. She is probably the most dependable person in every room she walks into. That's not the problem. The problem is that dependable doesn't pay her enough to breathe easy, okay? Being dependable. She is living paycheck to paycheck. And not in the way people say casually, like it's a personality quirk. I mean, she knows exactly what's in her account right now. She has a mental spreadsheet and she runs every time she swipes her card. She knows what bills have grace period and which ones don't. She has gotten really, really good at math or just barely making it work. And sometimes she makes it work and feels proud of herself. Then immediately feels sad that this is what she's proud of. She wants to go on a trip. Her friends are planning, but she's already calculating whether she can. She wants to say yes to things without a second thought. She wants to stop having the same conversation with herself every time something comes up. Can I actually afford this or am I just hoping that I can? She wants margin. She wants breathing room. She wants to stop feeling like she's one unexpected expense away from everything getting complicated. She's already tried things, y'all. I want to name that because she is not someone who just sits around waiting for something to change. Okay. She's picked up extra shifts. What? She's picked up extra shifts. She's cut back on eating out, on things she actually enjoyed, on things that make her feel like herself. She's looked into other jobs, maybe applied for a few, maybe got one that pays slightly more, but cost her more in commute or in spirit. She's downloaded the budgeting apps, y'all. She's made plans that worked for 2 weeks and then life happened. She might have even looked into starting something on the side before. Maybe MLM came up and she dismissed it immediately because she's heard things or she's tried something and it didn't work, or she just couldn't picture herself doing that. She doesn't want to be the person who's always selling to her friends. She doesn't want to be annoying. She doesn't want to fail publicly. So she keeps showing up to the job because at least the job is certain. At least the job is something she knows how to do. Here's what she's afraid to admit out loud. And I say this gently because I've been in this place and it has been a vulnerable thing to name. She's afraid that this is just her life now. That wanting more is something she's supposed to grow out of, some supposed to make peace with, supposed to stop bringing up because it makes her seem like she doesn't appreciate what she has. She's afraid that the version of her life that she actually wants, the one with options, with room to breathe, with choices that aren't all made out of necessity, that version is for other people. People who started with more, people who knew the right things at the right time, not her. She has talked herself out of so many things that she wanted because the voice in her head sounded so reasonable, so responsible, so practical. And practical has kept her safe and small at the same time. She is not broken. She is not behind. She is just someone who hasn't had access to the right options yet. If any part of what I just described sounds like your life, this is for you. Not kind of for you, specifically, directly, intentionally for you. I see you and I built this for you. Okay. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, all right, I'm interested, but where do I even start? I'm going to make this super simple for you because I know how overwhelming it can feel when you're looking at something new and you don't know which thing to pick or whether you're making the right call. There's one place I tell everyone to start. One. It's called the Legal and Identity Combo Plan, and it's $44.90 a month. That's it. That's the starting point. Not because it's the cheapest option or because I'm trying to ease you in, but because it's genuinely the one that covers the two things most likely to affect your everyday life right now. The legal side is everything I've been talking to you about today. The 24/7 access line, the document review, the letter writing, the app, all of it. For a flat monthly rate, no surprise bills, no you owe us for the consultation calls afterward. And then the identity protection side. That's the part people forget about until they actually need it. Identity theft is not something that happens to the other people. It happens to regular people, working people, people who are just living their lives and not thinking about it. And when it happens, it is a mess to clean up alone. Having that protection already in place before something goes sideways, that's what makes the combo worth it. Together, they cover the two things that can derail your finances and your peace of mind the fastest: legal problems you didn't see coming, and identity issues you didn't know were happening. Now, let me put $44.90 in context for a second because I think it's worth saying it out loud. One consultation with the private attorney, just one. No representation, no follow up, just a single conversation where you describe your situation and they tell you whether you have a case. That alone can cost you $150 to $350. The combo plan is $44.90 a month for everything, for ongoing access, for the ability to call, ask questions, get documents reviewed, get letters written without a clock running or a bill waiting at the end. That's not a promotional pitch. That's just math. Quick math. Quick math. So here's the next step. And I'm going to keep this simple because simple is actually what gets done. Reach out to me directly, drop a message in the comments, send me a DM, however you're most comfortable. Just reach out and say, I want to start, or even I have questions. I will walk you through it personally. I'm not going to send you to a website and disappear. I'll be right there. You don't have to have it all figured out before you reach out. You just might be a little bit curious. That's enough to start. The legal and the identity combo plan, $44.90 a month. One step, one decision, and you go from having no backup to having backup. That's where I'll start. And that's where I'll tell everyone to start. So, I want to talk about the fear for a second because, girl, I know it's there. I know it's there. It's the thing that shows up right when you're about to say yes to anything new. That little voice that says, but what if it doesn't work for me? What if I spend the money and don't use it? What if I'm making the wrong call? I hear you. And I'm not going to talk you out of that feeling by throwing a guarantee at you or making a promise I can't keep. That's not how I operate. What I'm going to do is tell you instead about Jessica. Jessica is on my team. She signed up a week ago, 1 week. She had that same hesitation. I know she did because most people do. You're looking at something new, you're calculating whether it's worth it, and you're wondering whether you'll actually use it or it'll be another thing you're paying for every month. She signed up anyway. And within the first week, she used the 24/7 emergency access line. She texted me afterward and said, "The access is amazing, more than anything I expected." 1 week. That's how long it took for this to become real for her. Not a month, not after some big crisis. 1 week, and she already knew it was worth it. Here's what I want you to hear in that. Jessica didn't wait until she had a legal emergency to find out if this worked. She used it, it showed up, and now she's not wondering anymore. That's the only risk reversal I can offer you. Not a policy, not a trial, just the truth that the women who sign up and actually use what's available to them find out very quickly that the access is real. The only way to know if it's for you is to try it. And the only thing standing between you and knowing is the decision. Take the step, reach out to me. Let's get you set up. All right, we come into the end of today's live. And I want to make the next step really simple for you. If anything I said today landed, if you recognize yourself in any of it, if the access, the protection, the price made sense to you, there is one place to start. The legal and the identity combo plan. $44.90 a month. Legal protection and identity protection in one membership. That's it. That's where I tell everyone to begin. Here's what I want you to do right now. Drop the word backup in the comments. Just that one word, backup. And I will personally reach out to you with everything you need to know to get started. No pressure, no pitch, just information and a real conversation so you can make the right decision for yourself. Back up in the comments. That's your next step. And before I go, if you have any questions, drop those in the comments too about Legal Shield, about how this works, about whether this makes sense for your specific situation. Ask me. I'll stay on and answer what I can right now. And anything I don't get to, I will follow up on personally. No question is too small. No situation is too complicated to have at least a conversation about. I show up every week because I genuinely believe this. The women watching this deserve to stop white knuckling life alone. They deserve to make choices from a place of peace instead of panic. They deserve to have someone in their corner before things go wrong, not just after. Everybody deserves options with backup. Drop backup in the comments. I'll see you there. Bye. What the
That was
dog
close.
doing?
Is everybody all right? Come back again soon for another challenge.